So, thank you so much everyone. So, I've started checking yung mga submissions. Apologies. I think from parang an assessment for this particular exercise,
Yung
merong
mga
mga
maling
yeah, may maling encoding. So,
yung mga maling answer.
so correct. So for number 5, uh please disregard yung number 5 because I think there was a typo. It should have been 2% of net credit sales. So everyone that answered based on AR, that's correct. Pero hindi maglalabas yung correct answer in number 5. And then for AR sa aging, I think in terms of encoding, nagkamali rin in like this particular box and this particular box. But then generally, parang the process will still remain the same. So thank you for those who submitted parang their explanation. So good job kasi um that means na you understand the topic. But apologies, in future encoding, I will also directly double check kung meron man mali. So if may ganon, I sometimes kasi don't check my email. Please comment na lang sa Facebook thread. I think mas makikita ko yun if there are certain questions with regards parang encoding the right answer. Yeah. But don't worry, for today we'll go over everything again. So two reminders. So number 1, you will have our AR quiz, the first part, on Monday. So 9 to 9. Kindly let me know na rin now if ever there are any other conflicts para I can lobby to change the schedule or whatnot. So if ever meron tayong concerns for that schedule, please let me know. So Monday, we have our first AR quiz. So this is gonna be the second out of your 5 part 2 quizzes. And then on Thursday next week, you'll also have another set of AR exercises, but this time focusing on notes receivable. So the third quiz will focus on notes receivable. So on the receivables pa rin. Pero that's something that we'll discuss for next week. Now, I think we're coming from a really great momentum from the special optional quiz and then cash quiz. So for the AR quiz, for me, unlike cash na parang bank recon would be the bulk, the challenge here is really not the number of exercises you do, but how well you master certain topics for accounts receivable. So going to our overview, what are the things na super importante to master? Number 1, allowance method, percentage of net sales, percentage of accounts receivable. Please understand the underlying differences between those two methods. Na si percentage of net sales, since it focuses on the income statement, what it will give you will be your bad debt expense, which is an income statement item. Your percentage of AR will give you a focus on your balance sheet. Since it's balance sheet focus, it will give you a balance sheet item called ADA, or allowance for doubtful accounts. So that's the super important for you to master. So basically exercise 1 of the AR, please master that. Kasi yan talaga yung parang pamatay sa AR. Pag nalito na kayo when it comes to like the various debits, the various credits, your answers mag-chain yan. So that's the key for you to study and master. And then second, please don't let go or don't take for granted other topics related to receivables. Meaning, madali lang naman yung disposing of AR, meaning how do you write journal entries for factoring, credit card transactions, those are other small topics, pero please don't take them for granted. Since these are just journal entries, please master or understand how to do it. So in the exercises, meron na naman tayong mga really good examples. So today I'll illustrate parang what is the optimal way, or at least on my end, how to solve for these things. And then the last would be yung financial ratios like AR ratio, just good to understand the whole concepts. So for today's discussion, again, it might sound redundant. And also since nagawa niyo na yung exercises, it also might feel repetitive. But for AR, rather the number of exercises, what I really want you to master is the understanding. Kasi medyo pare-pareho lang naman yung itsura nung examples or questions in your quizzes or your short prompts. But the clincher would be how well you fully understand everything. So with that said, I just want to quickly breeze through important concepts in theory. So number one, let's first define receivables. So please wag mawala. We're focusing on AR, but AR is just one subtopic of our whole topic, which would be receivables. That in general, what makes a receivable is that there are claims that at the end of the day, you expect to be collected in cash. So technically, when you're selling your business operations, you have your revenue and your end goal is to arrive with your cash. But while you're waiting for cash, some of them will become receivables. These are amounts due from individuals or companies. So ingat, again, the main goal of companies will always to end up with cash, given that cash is the most liquid asset, right? That's the reason why it's the number one in your line item. Receivables is not as liquid as cash, but it's almost as liquid because the expectation is you'll be able to turn any receivable into cash within the collection period. So now there are two major classifications of receivables: your trade receivables and your non-trade receivables. But in terms of our types, we have AR, which is the focus of your quiz on Monday, and then we have notes receivable, and then other receivables. So kindly take note of some examples like interest receivable, loans to company officers, advances to employees. So generally, what I want you to really memorize is that trade receivables, such as AR and notes receivable, come from business operations or from your sales transactions. So trade receivables like AR, note receivables come from sale transactions. On the other hand, your non-trade receivables does not arise from operations, normal operations. So interest receivable, advances to employees, those are not from your typical operations, not from sales transactions. Kaya sila non-trade. Are there any questions when it comes to the overview? If none, then we can proceed na to AR first, right? So AR will be the focus of our quiz for next Monday. And for this, honestly, it's very straightforward. For initial recognition, the important thing here is that you master your ART account and that you know the journal entries related to this. Sa subsequent measurement, dito papasok yung BDE and ADA natin under allowance method. But please also be aware on the differences between direct write-off and allowance method. And then finally, for disposable or disposal, we have discounting and factoring. So, ano yung expectation ko coming into this exercise or this period? That number one, for initial recognition, na master nyo all of the things that will affect your ART accounts. For subsequent measurement, to fully understand PDE and ADA. And then for disposal, please don't take this for granted. Important also na you know the journal entries and you understand the difference between discounting and factoring. So we'll focus muna on initial recognition. Again, initial recognition, very straightforward. When you have a sale on credit, so another thing, please make sure na pag nakalagay sale, you analyze kung credit ba siya. Usually, if it has credit terms like 5, 10, and 30, 4, 10, and 20, all of those will be credit sales. Pero paano ko nagsabi siya na we were able to sell around like 10,000. 50% we received in cash. The remaining we received in credit. Meaning, yung AR mo is not 10,000, but it's 5,000, which is 50% of that sale. So, flashback to inventory, remember, parang not all sales will be on credit. So, please be careful in terms of reading. Be it in your quiz or your long exam in terms of credit ba siya or cash sale, right? But the first thing is that credit sales increase your AR, right? So this is journal entry. The second thing is kapag nagkaroon tayo ng sales return and allowance, that decreases our AR. So that's the second. And then you have three other scenarios when it comes to collecting your AR. So when you have a sales discount, it doesn't mean na it will subtract your AR, pero what that means is it's more of the collection, not the sales discount per se. Na parang in essence, sales discount don't really have any effect on your AR, right? Na parang, pare, for this example, we have an AR of 100 and then wala rin tayong SRA. Even if you pay the discount at an early time, the credit here will still be 100. Basically, you were able to collect it, right? So in essence, yung sales discount won't really affect it in such a way that yung buong AR pa rin yung nakikredit, right? And then, kindly take note also na pag may finance charge, meaning kapag na-late and then not paid within the term, sometimes a company will impose a finance charge on a customer. And because that's a finance charge, magkakaroon ng interest income and then tataas si AR. So, in summary, the sales discount have no effect kasi it's already included in the collection. It's of 72,000. So what are the things na nagpapababa ng AR natin? Sales return and allowance, cash collections really go down. And then the things that make it go up would be sales and finance charge. And then we go to subsequent measurement. So in subsequent measurement, we measure again AR at NRV or net realizable value. So meaning, what does NRV mean? It means the cash NRV or the value for which AR is expected to be collected in cash. So in summary, please wag malito. In initial recognition, initial fair value. Pag initial, fair value. Pero pag subsequent measurement or at the end of the period when you make adjustments, it's at NRV or net realizable value. Again, pag subsequent measurement, it's at NRV. And simply put, since subsequent measurement measures at net realizable value, it's basically this equation. Accounts receivable minus allowance for doubtful accounts is equal to your net accounts receivable. So now the question is, what is ADA? ADA is your contra AR or contra asset of accounts receivable. Meaning, sa balance sheet, lalabas si ADA. It's a balance sheet item. Wherein it's AR minus ADA is equal to net accounts receivable. Right? And then, ito yung example in the balance sheet. So, please be aware na your ADA is just basically where your estimated uncollectible amounts are housed. So, it makes sense na your net AR receivable is just your accounts receivable minus the total allowance for your estimated doubtful accounts. Kaya siya doubtful accounts, these are the accounts na you feel hindi magbabayad, is equal to your cash NRV or your AR net, which is basically what I expect to receive in cash would be my AR, my total amount accounts receivable, minus the doubtful accounts na feeling ko hindi magbabayad will equal to my net accounts receivable. So, in estimating bad debts, we have two ways, right? You have your direct write-off and your allowance method. Now, si ADA, lumalabas lang siya sa allowance method. Again, sa ADA, sa allowance method lang siya. Kaya nga, allowance for doubtful accounts, it only pops in allowance method. In direct write-off, we only directly subtract from AR kaagad. So in direct write-off, they only record actual losses. So sa direct write-off, actual losses. And in essence, this is wrong because it does not follow the matching principle. In contrast, your allowance method, you have estimate losses. So gumagawa lang siya ng ADA based on the estimated losses. And therefore, it follows the matching principle. So for this, please memorize what are the differences in journal entries for your direct write-off and your allowance method, right? But this example summarizes the three differences. So number one, the first difference between direct write-off and allowance method is if estimated lang yung losses, you don't make a journal entry under direct write-off. Right? So itong 5,000 estimate na to has no journal entry. Versus, under the allowance method, even though it's an estimate only, you still have a BDE ADA for 5,000. Next, second difference. In terms of writing off, yung credit is in under the accounts receivable directly. So wala siyang ADA account. Versus, pag allowance method, it should be, yung write-off would be, may ADA ka muna. Right? So it's BDE here, straight to AR. Pero ito, ADA first, and then AR. Right? And then finally, for recovery, the third difference would be, this would be the two journal entries for allowance method and then just one simple entry for write-off. Right? So those are the three differences between direct write-off and allowance method. So with that said, let's proceed to your first set of exercises when it comes to the bullish launch company example. So for me, how are you sure na memorize or how are you sure na master niyo na si BDE and ADA? Redo this problem a lot or find similar problems in your Valix or in your Wacom. And then you'll be able to be confident na kahit anong scenario iba to sa inyo, be it direct write-off, allowance method, be it a debit balance or a credit balance, dapat alam niyo na or you're confident enough to answer them. Before I proceed to actually solving this, do you have any questions for direct write-off or allowance method before we begin? Kindly thumbs up if we're okay to proceed to the okay, so we're okay. Okay. So kindly take note na medyo demanding yung exercises for exercise 1 under bullish launch company. So it always asks you for three things. What would be your balance of net accounts receivable? What would be your adjusting journal entry? And what would be the T account for your allowance for doubtful accounts? So honestly, kaya siya demanding is because in essence, in any AR problem when it comes to estimating bad debts, itong tatlo lang naman talaga yung iikot-ikot na na i-ask sa inyo regardless of what scenario it is. So kindly make sure na you understand how to arrive with these three given under each scenario. So let's go to scenario 1. So scenario 1, unlike scenarios B to E, pertain to a direct write-off, right? And for me, this is my suggested way for you to solve this. Number 1, alam ko na that it will ask for the ending balance of my net accounts receivable. So what I'll do, if it's different scenarios like this, I will come up with this simple table. I have my AR column, and then I have my ADA column. And then from here, I will input the given. And also, ano ba yung mga other items in the scenario. So, let's start. So, I have this table. And then, the very first thing I read is, there's a 480,000 accounts receivable. So, I input that. So, current balance natin is 480,000. Next, I go na to the scenario. The scenario indicates na, number 1, it follows the direct write-off method in that it assumes that meron raw isang account called Paradox Speed na 234 is uncollectible. So this is an actual loss. And under direct write-off, the journal entry for write-off is straightforward. Bad debt expense of 234,000 credit AR 234,000. Kindly take note na under the direct write-off method, it's AR. Right? So, meaning, dito siya isusubtract. Wala tayong ADA in direct write-off. And therefore, scenario A is easily solved. We're done now with the adjusting entry, which is the BDEAR of 234,000. And then, we are able to arrive na rin with your, sorry, just looking for my calculator. Okay, there. And then, we can arrive with our AR net. What's our AR net? 480, sorry, 480 minus 234 is 246. So the three answers here would be, my ending AR net would be 246,000. My adjusting entry would be this one, and there is no ADAP account because it's a direct write-off method. So again, direct write-off does not follow matching principle, and that's why it's not followed. And allowance method follows the matching principle. And then please understand and familiarize yourselves with the three differences. Right? So, sa write-off, BDE kaagad, hindi siya may ADA account. Yun. So, are there any questions under direct write-off or scenario A? Right? So, that's the only scenario that illustrates the differences between direct write-off and allowance method. Straightforward naman so far, right? So now, the next thing na you have to master is, okay, alam na natin yung allowance method. Now, under allowance method, there are two ways of solving for it. You have your percentage of sales and percentage of receivables. Under percentage of sales, you only have one straightforward formula. It's basically, you get the percentage from your net credit sales, and then that will give you your BDE or bad debt expense. Again, percentage of sales focus on the income statement, and therefore BDE, or it's an expense item that you'll be able to derive. Now, for percentage of AR, it's a balance sheet relationship, and it will give you your ADA, which is a balance sheet item. Another thing is that under percentage of receivables, there are other two ways. So it could be equation formula, or it could be the aging schedule, which we will discuss in the next exercise, right? And then generally, I want you to understand this. Pag hinihingi nila sa inyo yung adjusting entry, the adjusting entry will always be bad debt expense, credit ADA. So if you get the BDE, you can already get the adjusting entry from the get-go. Now, if you get ADA, what you can get naman is the net accounts receivable, because it's just basically AR minus ADA is equal to your net accounts receivable. And then, please be a master at the T accounts for ADA. So other things I want to point out. ADA, since it's a contra AR account, it has a normal credit balance. But it does not mean na it will always be a credit balance. As you can see in other scenarios, minsan debit siya. But regardless kung saan siya magsimula, your ending balance will most likely be a credit when after you've made your BDE adjustment. So what are the things that increase ADA? When you have your BDE estimation, when you have recovery, those are credits, or it increases your ADA. Now, if I ask you, how does write-off affect ADA? Then it's a debit. Pag write-off, debit. Kasi debit ADA, credit AR. And write-offs decrease your allowance for doubtful accounts. Right? So those are the important concepts. So now, para ma-master natin, let's look at it from the four scenarios. So the first scenario is allowance method, percentage of AR, pero credit balance. So this is the easier one kasi credit balance si ADA. It's the more normal scenario. So again, kapag may nakita akong ganito, I'll create a table. This column refers to my AR. This column refers to my ADA. These columns could be T accounts, pero for simplicity's sake, I just made it into a table format. If you're more comfortable with using T accounts, then better. Pero if you want the table format, then just try to follow how I solve it, right? So again, we go for the given. First is 480,000. Okay? And then it says the allowance for doubtful accounts has a credit balance of 6,400. So I know that's minus 6,400 kasi it's a contra asset account. Kaya minus 6,400. So if you were to ask me, what is the net AR before adjustment, then it's just basically $480 minus 6.4. So 4,730 and 600. And then, the next thing na we're given is their way of solving. It said na it's expected to be 5% of accounts receivable. Right? And before that, I can already plot my ADAT account na may beginning balance at credit of 6,400. Right? So again, we're expecting 5% of AR. So this is number one, percentage of AR. So the equation would be, what is our AR? What is our percentage of AR? And then it will ultimately give us ADA. Now, with this, we just plug in 480,000 times 5%. That will give us an ADA of 24,000. Now, itong 24,000, please be a master at where do you put it in your ADAT account. Since it's an ADA yung binigay ni AR, we know that this 24,000 is the ending balance of your ADA. So now that we know that it should be 24,000, this is the ending balance. Alam natin na it's minus 24,000. So now, ano yung butas? How can we make 6,400 become 24,000? Basically, we just need an additional credit of 24,000 minus 6,000 is 18,000. Or sorry, 6,400 pala. So again, 24,000 minus 6.4, 17,600. So we have a BDE of 17,600. And because we already know our BDE, na-complete na natin all the things that affected your ADA. And therefore, we can write the journal entry, bad debt expense ADA of 17,600. And then, we'll be able to solve our AR net at 456,000. So again, percentage of AR will give your ADA, and then your ADA is the ending balance of your ADAT account. From there, you can solve for the missing BDE, and then you'll be able to get your adjusting entry. And then yung ADA, since alam natin 24,000, then it's just AR 480 minus ADA of 24,000 is 456,000. Are there any questions or clear pa naman yung percentage of AR, how we're able to solve it? So again, it's really just understanding where everything is placed in your ADA T account, and then knowing na itong ending balance na to will help me arrive with the AR net, and then this BDE will always be my adjusting entry for my scenario. If everything's clear, kindly thumbs up so that we can proceed to the next. Okay. So the next scenario is percentage of sales. So now, we do the same thing wherein, okay, we input 480,000, still the same credit balance of 6,400, and then I make my T account na 6,400. Now, we look at, ano ba yung method? Now, it's a percentage of net sales. Since it's net sales, our formula will now be net credit sale times percentage of sales is equal to your BDE. So now, it's BDE. Kasi percentage of sale focuses on the income statement and it will give us our BDE. So what is our net credit sale? It's 2 million. So how do we arrive with net credit sale? So ito yung isa sa mga iingatan natin. If it says net credit sales, that would be 2,736,000 in sales revenue, right? Minus 236,000 in sales return and allowance and minus 500 in sales discount. So kaya siya 2 million. And then times 2%. So our BDE is now 40,000. Now, ito, we were able to solve na, okay, our BDA estimate is 40,000. So saan natin siya ilalagay sa EDAT account? Sa loob, hindi sa labas. So therefore, we have a credit of 40,000 BDE here. So now we can solve for our adjusted ADA ending balance, which is basically 46,400. But since alam na natin yung nasa loob, then alam na natin yung BDE, we can now create the journal entry BDE ADA of 40,000. And then the last step is just, okay, 46,400 itong total na to. Therefore, my ADA balance is 46,400. Our AR is 480 pa rin. So my AR net is 433,600. Right? So basically, we're done now with percentage of AR, percentage of sales using a credit balance. Sometimes, nagkakaroon naman ng problema because debit balance si IDA. So it's still the same, pero some people get thrown off by the debit balance. So scenarios D and E is just meant for you to familiarize yourselves with this scenario. So again, we started the same, 480, but now it's a plus 3,600. And therefore, our A.T account will now look like this. It has a beginning balance of 3,600. Now, natin method? Percentage of AR. So automatic percentage of AR, it will give me ADA, right? So using this account, we have 480,000 AR times 5% equals 24,000 ADA. And then itong ADA na to, saan siya lalabas? Sa T account? Sa labas. Or it will be the ending balance of your accounts receivable at 24,000. And therefore, we just have to, so alam na natin na the ending balance should be 24,000. So paano natin gagawing negative 24,000 si 3,600? We need a 27,600 bad debt expense, right? So if you have a negative 27,600 plus 3,600, it will give you 24,000. So now, we know that our journal entry would be BDE 27,600, credit ADA of 27,600. And then, we'll be able to easily solve for ending balance for AR at 456,000. Right? So, same procedure, na iba lang yung analysis because naging debit balance na to. But in essence, it's still solve for ADA, so alam natin yung ending balance. What needs to happen to the T account in order to make it 24,000? We just have to find the missing BDE so that we'll be able to find the adjusting end. And then the last one is yung mistake dun sa encoding sa ooblet. So apologies for that. Again, it was meant to be 2% of net sales. So same scenario. So we have 3,600 in debit. But now it's 2% of net sales. So BDE naman yung binigay. So we have 40,000 BDE. So this is where it will pop in. So now it's negative 40,000. So our ending ADA is now 36. So alam na rin natin yung adjusting entry because of the bad debt expense. And then our ADA would be 36,400, which is basically 40,000 minus 3,600 is 36,400. So, alam na rin natin yung AR net natin at 443,600. So, in essence, that ends our E9.5 or bullish launch company exercises. Are there any questions for these or clear naman? Kindly thumbs up if everything's okay. So, this is what I promise you. If super na-gets nyo to, as in not because you followed the steps, but you understand the different nuances of the scenarios, you'll most likely do well in your quizzes and short problems for AR, anything related to AR. So please, if you have any questions, kung nalilito pa kayo in the format, kindly let me know. Right? So I think everyone's okay. Wala pa nag-chats. We can summarize our learnings. So again, to summarize our learnings, percentage of sales, basically it's net credit sales times percentage of sales. Again, what will it give you? Your bad debt expense. And in your bad debt expense, pag alam nyo na to, you can write your adjusting journal entry kaagad, right? But another thing is that you can use your BDE to solve for the ending balance of your ADA, right? It's always inside the T account. Pero be careful if it's a credit or a debit ADA. Kasi mag-iiba yung ending balance nyo ng ADA even with the same BDE, right? And then, kapag percentage of receivables, baliktad naman. So this is the equation, AR times percentage of AR. Pero ito sa labas, it will dictate na what should be your ending ADA balance. And then, you will just adjust your BDE appropriately. Pero, again, to remind everyone, percentage of receivables could be in equation format or it could be into an aging schedule. So again, what are the features of an aging schedule? Number one, it classifies the AR based on their age. So ito, outstanding siya for 15 days, ito 16 to 30 days, ito 31 to 45 days, and then beyond 45 days. Next thing I want you to focus, after categorizing, we need the percentage of uncollectibility. So again, it could give you a percentage of collection or percentage of uncollectibility. But ang kailangan natin is percentage of uncollectability. Okay? Uncollectability. And then as you can notice, tumataas yung percentage of uncollectability as the AR ages. Right? Kasi for example, nagpautang ka to friend A and nagpautang ka kay friend B. Si friend A, yung utang mo, hindi pa niya binabayaran, pero 2 weeks for the next 2 weeks. Ay, for the past 2 weeks. So, 2 weeks may utang siya sa yung 50 pesos, let's say. And then, si friend B, yung utang niya sa'yo 6 months ago. Right? So, kahit 50 pesos yun, 6 months ago. So, if I were to ask you, who's more likely to pay? Si friend A or si friend B? Si friend A hindi nagbabayad ng utang for 2 weeks. Si friend B hindi nagbayad ng utang for 6 months. So, most likely, ang hindi ko na makukuha ng pera, yung mas matagal yung outstanding, si friend B. So, same mindset in aging of receivables. The older your AR, the higher the percentage of uncollectibility is. And then, basically, you just multiply. So, 500 times 2%, etc., etc. And then, when you sum it, you get your ending ADA balance, right? So, it's the same as this equation, itong 50 na to, but ito, it's more of a straightforward calculation. Another thing, you'll have access to your total AR. Now, kung merong mga missing items here, all of these should total 900,000. So, pare, 500,000 is missing. This is an X. All of this should total your outstanding AR. Because, again, in an aging schedule, yung 900,000 mo, binibreakdown mo lang naman into, ito, 500,000 out of the 900 is 15 days outstanding. Ito, 200, 16 to 30. So, everything should total the 900,000, right? So, with that said, let's master aging of receivables using our Edge Runner Corporation. So, in this particular scenario, Edge Runner has an accounts receivable of 2,077,000, right? So, my expectation is that when I categorize them into different ages, itong total na to should be equal to 2,077,000. Okay? So now, we make our AR table. So our AR table is, this is the AR amount, this is the age, and then this is the percentage of uncollectability, so that it will give us our ABA amounts. So now, let's look at the given. First is, meron tayong total outstanding AR for 2,077,000. And therefore, alam ko that the total of your AR should be 2,077,000. And then we plug in. So, ang classification is current. So, we have 141. So, 1.4 million. For 1 to 30 days, it's 290,000. For 31 to 90 days, it's 228,000. And then, for the 90 days, it's missing. So now, how do I arrive with this missing? This is the first thing that was required, right? What is the AR that is over 90 days past due? Well, simply, alam ko na all of this, so A, B, C plus D should be equal to 2.77 thousand. So meaning, it's 2077,000 minus your 1.4 million na current accounts minus your 290,780 na 30 days outstanding minus your 228,470 na 31 to 90 days outstanding. It will give me 145,750 because to complete or to make sense of the table. So we're done with step 1. Step 2 is we need to get the percentage of uncollectability. Now, be careful. It's ang binigay sa inyo is percentage collectible. So to get this, we need to get the inverse. 100% minus 98 is 2%, 6%, 30%, and then 50%. So as you can see, pataas ng pataas yung percentage of uncollectability. Because again, the older your AR, the less likely for you to collect. Kaya pinakamataas na percentage of uncollectability is yung dapat nasa last row. So even if hindi nyo to nabasa na uncollectible siya, make sure na na-weirdohan kayo na bakit mas mataas yung mas bata. Hindi yun dapat. Every time na you go down, dapat it should be increasing. Ito, when you go down, it's decreasing. That's wrong. Right? So that's one way to check percentage of uncollectability. Right? So that should be complete na yung table. And then we just multiply. Right? So I think dito nagkamali si encoding. Mali yata yung dito. But in essence, your ADA or your ending ADA balance should be 187,102.80. So if we plot this, we know that there's a 7,815 credit balance. So may credit dito. And then we already know the ending ADA balance of 187. So the only missing is the BBE adjustment, which is 179,287.80. And therefore, our adjusting entry for this is BDE 179,287.80, ADA 179,287.80. Are there any questions for aging? If none, kindly thumbs up if everything's okay. So we're done with everything na mahirap sa AR for me. Like, clear na sa atin si ART account, clear na sa atin si ADA-T account. Now, the last step is to master it in different formats, right? So another format could be before scenario format. Ito, paragraph format. So it sounds intimidating, but every time you see a chunk of text, you break it down per key event, right? So for this, for the avatar industries, let's take it per major event, right? So major event number 1. On December 31, 2020, Avatar Industries estimated that 6% of its net account receivable will become uncollectible. And then they noted na si APA raw, their accountant, has a debit balance of 4,700 for their ABA. So step 1, let's plug in everything that we know. So 6% of its net account receivable. So this is percentage of AR. So that will give us our ADA. So 420 yung AR, 6%. So our ADA is 25,200. So since we know this, we can start our T account. Another thing na to note is that may debit balance raw of 4,700. So may 4,700 here, and then since alam na natin si ADA, we know that the ending balance should be 25,200. So let's solve for the missing PDE estimate, which is basically just 29,900 because you have 47 plus 25,200 is 29,900. So let's check. 47 minus 29 is 25,200 na credit, right? And therefore, since complete na natin sa ADAT account, we can get the first journal entry, BDE ADA of 29,900. Now, kindly take note na it's December 31. So the December 31 ADAT account, pag January, the ending balance will now become the beginning balance. Right? Kasi nag-crossover na tayo ng period eh. So for January, our beginning credit balance is 25,200. Right? So nalipat lang. With that said, let's now go on to the major events of the next year. So April 20, Avatar determined that the CabbagMan account was uncollectible. So nag-write off. And what's the journal entry for a write-off? Debit ADA, credit AR 1,200. Pero luckily on June 12, so since meron tayong ganitong journal entry sa ADA, that will be a debit. A write-off is a debit to your ADA. Pero nagbayad raw ulit siya. So what would be our journal entry for recovery? Babalik na rin natin si AR and ADA. So basically we just reverse it or reinstate it. So we have a credit for recovery of 1,200. And then we have a cash collection of cash, debit, credit AR of 1,200. Right? So lastly, yung last event is that on June 30, made a change in accounting policy na now it's a percentage of net sales. So since percentage of net sales siya, basically we just get what? 310,000. Bakit? Again, be careful. Net credit sales. So meaning that's 1 million minus SRA of 690. Kaya siya 310 net credit sale. And then percentage of sales 8%. So you have 24,800. And then now that we know the BDE, saan siya papasok sa ADAT account? Sa loob, right? And therefore, we'll be able to get our ADA balance of 50,000. So since alam na natin yung BDE is 24,800, our adjusting entry is debit BDE, credit ADA of 24,800. So paano natin nakuha si 50,000? It's just basically doing the T account, right? Which is 25,200 plus 1,200 plus 24,800. So those are our total credits minus the debit of 50,000, yung ending balance natin kay ADA. And that's how you solve for Avatar Industries. So kahit na iba yung format, the concepts remain the same. As long as you master the ADAT account, you'll be able to be fine. You'll be fine. And then please be careful sa net credit sale. It should always be net credit sale. And then be careful of mga SRAs or mga collections. Yun. So now we're done with the first chunk of your AR, which is basically as long as you master ADA, BDE, write-off method, allowance method, percentage of sales, percentage of AR, you'll be fine in terms of like 50% of, the coverage. Ito yung mahirap eh, right? So, yun. Are there any questions before I proceed na to the other topics? If none, kindly thumbs up if everything's okay. Right. So now, let's dive other topics. So, like what I mentioned, AR, ang mahirap is yung estimation. Pero, don't just focus on estimation. We expect na even the other subtopics, syempre dapat maninyo na yan, right? So, please master journal entries even if small topic siya, right? So, what are the small topics? Disposal of AR, credit card sales, usually no overlook ng students. But please, for your quizzes, for your long exams, don't overlook. Sayang yung easy points when it comes to mga journal entries or analysis when it comes to this. So super important na you master how to journal entry for disposal, credit card, etc. Right? So let's first go to disposal. So theory muna tayo. Why would companies sell their AR? There are two reasons and then there is one common misconception. Okay? So, number one, companies would sell AR because their liquidity is low, meaning they want money now, pero puro AR yung meron sila. So, they rather sell their accounts receivable. Or, collecting AR is troublesome. Like, some oil and gas companies take over 110 days to convert their AR to cash, right? Sobrang tagal na. So, that's so troublesome. So, rather than collecting myself, I'd rather sell it or discount it, right? Now, the wrong assumption here is that people would say, you sell AR because AR is more liquid than cash. That's wrong, okay? So cash is the most liquid asset. So you sell nga AR to get cash because you want cash. Because cash is better than AR because cash is more liquid than AR. So now that we understand why they sometimes sell their AR, the question is, what are the two modes to dispose? And please master the difference. Sa discounting, the company receives your cash by obtaining a loan. So, uutang siya sa bank. And then, yung collateral is the AR. So, if you ask, sino yung magko-collect kapag discounting? Si company pa rin yung magko-collect ng AR. Versus the second disposal method, which is the one we'll focus on, is factoring. When we factor, we literally sell our AR to a factor or a financing company like a bank. And who collects the AR? Yung bangko na. Right? So for example, I have an AR for my cupcake business or whatever. And then I want to sell it or want to dispose it. If I discount that AR of like let's say 5,000, ang magko-collect pa rin ng 5,000 ako under discounting. Versus kapag factoring na, I sold it to like BDO, like BDO, I'll sell you my AR. So if it's 10,000 AR, I'm willing to receive like 9,000 na lang. The 1,000 can be your service charge. Pero ikaw na mag-collect. So in that scenario, si BDO na yung magko-collect ng accounts receivable ko. Ako, meron na akong pera. Pero mas maliit doon sa na-receive ko. And therefore, please take note na isa lang naman yung journal entry sa factoring. Na first, yung credit yung AR, may service charge, and then mas mababa lang yung cash. So, please, sa factoring, alam nyo na dapat na if you factor an AR worth 100,000, you know that yung cash na you receive will be much smaller than the 100,000 because there's a service charge expense. Right? And then, sa credit card naman, kindly take note na in credit card sales, may separate tayong account for AR only and AR from credit card. So, as you can notice, there's a debit AR credit card, right? And then, yung AR credit card natin is not the complete revenue. Nababawasan pa siya ng service charge expense, right? So, to make sure na we really master this, we have the two scenarios of E9.9. So, scenario A of E9.9 is actually factoring. And for me, kung nahirapan kayo sa factoring, please follow these 3 simple steps. So, pag alam niyo ng factoring, you write this journal entry immediately. Debit cash, debit service charge expense, credit AR. And then, step 1, find the credit AR. Ito muna, anong value nitong AR na to? Which is the total amount of AR sold. So, we look at the problem. 680,000 lang yung binenta. So alam ko na kagad na na-credit is 680. Step 2, find the service charge. The service charge for factoring is 4% of the amount. So therefore, alam na natin yung debit, 680 times 0.4 is 27,200. And lastly, determine the amount of cash received, which is basically, we squeeze it in order to balance. So alam natin na your total credits is 680. So minus 27.2. 652,800. Ay, sorry. That should be 652,800. Right? So 652,800. So are there any questions for factoring? So madali lang, right? So wag kayong matakot na parang for example, nilamp together lahat ng concepts, maraming journal entries. Just break it down. Itong journal entry na to will probably be about factoring. And pag factoring, ito lang naman yung 3 steps, right? Same with credit card sale, right? So pag credit card sale, alam ko na kagad na ito yung itsura ng journal entry ko. And then these are the 3 steps I follow for credit card sale. Find the credit sales revenue, which is basically the total sales revenue of 320,000. So Sasha Company sold potatoes for 320,000. So 320,000 to. And then find the service charge. So they use raw a Marley MasterCard that charges a 9% service charge. So 320 times 0.09 is 28,800. And then we squeeze, which is basically 320 minus 28.8. 109,200. Right? So this is our debit AR credit card of 291,200. So madali lang, right? So pag factoring, ito lang yung journal entry. And then si credit card, ito lang yung journal entry. And then if nalilito kayo because it's a compound journal entry, please follow the 3 steps for each factoring and credit card sale. Right. So last would be, let's take a deep dive to credit cards. So ito, this is another format. Like what I mentioned, dito medyo matatakot na kayo kasi parang 4 yung transactions. But again, take it 1 entry at a time, right? So how would I do this? For me, since alam ko na they will ask me for the AR balance, I will create this table that, can also be the accounts. Na AR Bojack credit card and AR Visa credit card, right? And then I'll input line item by line item. So journal entry 1, Bojack made Bojack credit card sales totaling 18,000 to Sarah Lynn. So this is just basically AR Bojack credit card credit sales revenue of 18,000. So wag kayong malito, bakit walang service charge? Because it's their own company's credit card. So usually they can opt not to have a service charge expense, right? Pag own credit card. So yung buong sales revenue is debited to AR Bojack credit card. So under here, this table, alam natin na may 18,000 tayo because of the sales, right? Next, Jan 20, Bojack made Visa credit card sales totaling 4.5 to Princess Caroline. So paano yan? So alam natin ito yung entry, pero let's do it 3 steps. Step 1, we get the credit sales revenue of 4.5. Step 2, we get the service charge expense, which is 2%. So what's 2% of 4.5? 90. And therefore, AR Visa credit card would be 4,410. So when I'm solving for the balance, ang ilalagay ko is 4,410, right? Hindi 4.5. That's one of the things na you be careful. AR Visa credit card is 4,410, not 4.5, right? So now we have this. What are the last two entries? Collected 10,000 on Bojack credit card sales. So basically, nag-collect ka lang. So debit, cash, credit, AR credit card of 10,000. So that we have a collection, so minus 10,000. And then, nag-add ka raw ng finance charge on the outstanding Bojack credit card. So, pag ganito, analyze what are the group accounts. For this, it's the AR Bojack credit card. And therefore, we first ask ourselves, ano ba yung outstanding balance nitong Bojack credit card? It's 8,000. Why? Because it's 18,000 yung lahat ng AR sa Bojack credit card and then 10,000 na collect na. And therefore, ilan pa yung hindi pa na-collect? It's 8,000. What is the finance charge? 1.5%. So 8,000 times 1.5% is 120. And this 120, since we're in the perspective of tayo makakatanggap, this is interest income. And therefore, our last journal entry is AR Bojack credit card of 120, interest income of 120. So now we have ending balances of 8,120 and 4,410. So our AR net is 12,530. So the AR of Bojack credit of 8,120 plus 4,410. 12,530. There. So are there any questions for this? Or everything's clear naman when it comes to credit card transaction? So please, in small topics like factoring, credit card sales, don't take it for granted. Redo these exercises. Be a master at journal entry. Please for these because pwede siyang ipaghalo-halo in your quiz or in your exams, right? So the last actually is AR ratios. So for AR ratios, actually it's very straightforward. Number one is that kindly take note that receivables are presented at net realizable value or at net, right? So ito yung itsura niya. And then we have AR turnover, which is basically a tool to assess liquidity. So basically, it measures like during the year, how many times on average were you able to collect your AR during the period? And then your average collection period will tell you the number of days that it usually takes you to collect your AR across the year, right? So AR turnover is how many times your AR turned over or how many times you fully collected them over the year. And then AR average collection period is the number of days, right? So meaning here, you were able to collect your AR 5.21 times every year. So it turned over 5 times. But on average, you were able to collect them for 7.02 days, right? So our last exercise, or 9.70, is about good prefect. So first thing to master here is that dapat magaling na kayo sa T-account sa AR. So here, we just get the ending balance of AR first. So 100,000 beginning balance. You had a gross credit sale of 100,111. Perry had an SRA of 111. So that's credit kasi bumaba. You have a collection of 920, so that's credit. And then you had a write-off of 30,000. Here. So now, you'll be able to get your ending balance of 150,000. So now we know the beginning balance of AR and the ending balance of AR. Why is this important? Because in our RTO, our AR turnover is net credit sales over average AR. So let's solve for the missing. First is net credit sales. And again, please be careful. Pag net credit sales, it's total sales minus SRA minus sales discount, right? So 100, 111 minus 111 is 1 million. So our net credit sales is 1 million. Our average AR is, what is your beginning AR? It's 100,000. May ABA ba tayo to offset AR? Wala. Next, what's your ending AR? 150,000. May ABA ba tayo to offset? Wala. So our beginning balance is 100. Our ending balance is 150. how do you get the average? 100,000 plus 150 is 250,000 divided by 2. So 125,000. So our average AR is 125,000. So in essence, 1 million divided by 125, we were able to turn over our AR 8 times. So that's good. We're more liquid, right? So the higher the number of the ARTO, the better. And then our average collection period in days is, we use 360 days for simplicity. Divide mo by your ARTO, which is 8, you get 45 days. So on average, you collect 45. So every 45 days, you're able to collect your AR. So actually, that ends our AR exercises. So are there any questions before I give you last minute tips na lang for your quiz and for your exams? Or is everything clear? Kindly thumbs up if everything makes sense. So, okay. So I think, okay. Okay. So Sky, sorry. So yeah. So sometimes you'll use 365 or 8. So we'll be overt in the problem, which uh one you'll use. So kung 365 divided by 8, it's still fine. If you got 45.625, then I think that's still acceptable. Yep. So if there are no more questions, kindly give me a moment. I will just get or I will just check Public quickly. Okay, yeah. So with this, just other reminders na lang. So first reminder would be for those na need guidance, I will upload the exercise sheet or my solution for the exercise for each of the methods or each of the exercises that we've discussed. So more than anything, please try to understand the flow, my thought process in terms of doing or solving for the each of the exercises. So I gave you my step-by-step sa PowerPoint, pero if you're more friendly sa Excel, this is another way na for you to solve it. But in essence, as you can see, ang importante talaga for me were number one, have this table so that I have a track or a tabulation of what would be my AR net for each of the scenarios. I had a T account for my ADA always every time method of sale or method of AR was mentioned. And then I also were able to plot it in the ART account para lang makita nyo the differences. Right? So please study this. And then, just in case may mali sa encoding sa Excel, please follow yung discussion sa recorded lecture more than anything else. Yeah. So here again, ito yung sa aging. And then this is for the other format. So this is the 2-period ADA. And then this is for your factoring and credit card, and your collection period. So for me, I think that in terms of the exercises, it's really more of mastery. If alam nyo na super gets nyo yung exercises, then I think you can be confident na with the quiz and the short prompts. But for those that want extra exercises pero want to maximize your time. So for Waygun, I think Waygun's pretty straightforward. You just follow it and you just identify kung ano yung mga nasa chapter 8 chapter 9 if I'm not mistaken. Right? Or anything under receivables. But for those that use Brack app, you'll have a chapter on accounts receivable. So this is, I guess, helpful, I think, in terms of understanding the ART account, but I wouldn't focus too much on this kasi I think it has a lot of more of like a classification kind of thing, right? Like payment to creditors, ganyan. I don't think you should focus on that. I think more importantly, you focus on chapter 19 to 20. So anything that has an estimation of doubtful accounts, aging of receivables, those are the things na you should pay attention to. So parang there's different formats. Like for example, ito, in this aging, it gives you 2 percentages and then itong 60,000. So basically, don't get caught off guard. It's still the same, like 1%, 2%. Pero ito, 60,000. And then this is your ADA. Yun. Or ito again, ito collectible. So for this, you just make sure na it's the opposite. So 5%, 10%, 0%, ganun. So these are the chapters na I think would be helpful. For comprehensive, siguro 1 to 2 lang because I think this is a bit more complicated. But yun, I think estimation of doubtful accounts, focus on that. Focus on journal entries for the others like yung initial recognition, disposals, credit card. Understand those so that even if ipagsama-sama siya, you'll be able to calm down and treat it separately in terms of the example. So actually, that's it from my end. Are there any questions, clarifications, or everything's okay na? Right? Okay, so if everything's okay, I will now officially end the recording.